It's back to more of the Business Edge on V1370.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Angie Huffman, your host of the Business Edge, and today we have with us Barbara Boone of Busy Bee Organizing Services, helping us to figure out how to get our home office space, and I'm sure the concepts we're talking about here you could use in any office space, not just a home office, to make our lives, what, Barbara?
Less stressful.
Less stressful, more efficient.
More peaceful.
Okay, great.
More time.
More time, okay. We were talking about a designer that you were working with and how you needed to do things a little bit differently for her. What was that?
Yes, she had a challenge because her office space was so tiny. And so we really had to think of very creative ways to organize her space. And she had a lot of samples. Since she was a graphic designer, she had a lot of product samples. And that was the biggest challenge, finding ways for her to house and store those samples so that she could look at them again. And so we used exactly what she had in her office already. We did not purchase outside things because we didn't have the space to do it. So we just kind of rearranged things in there, and we organized her samples.
How did you organize her samples? What did you actually do to organize those?
It was... Well, and this goes along with the process for organizing anything. We actually, I had taken pop-up bins when I organized, and we set up categories. For instance, in that case, we organized the samples according to the company that she had made the design for. And so we had these bins all around us, and we would just start taking them and putting them in the category that they belonged with. Then we would go back and do one category at a time, and we would figure out where we wanted to house that category.
Okay.
And then we would move to the next category. And that's basically the process of organizing for anything.
Okay. So when you work with a client, what is, you walk into their, probably usually this zone of, that would send me into like a conniption fit of disorganization. And I can think of a couple of my clients right off the top of my head. I walk into their space and I'm like, ooh, because there's just all this stuff. What do you do? What is the first thing you do with the client?
Actually, before I even walk into their office, I've had a free phone consultation with them, and that's the first step. And I ask them several questions about their needs because I have to know what their needs are in order to be able to service them. So I go through a list of questions. Why do they want to be organized? I mean, it may sound simple.
Why would someone want to be organized? Why, both in generic terms, and tell us about a couple of clients, why it was important for them to be organized.
Most people tell me the very first word that comes out of their mouth is, I'm overwhelmed.
Okay.
I feel so stressed out because I have so much and I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to keep. I don't know what to throw away. For instance, one client who came to me, he had business receipts all over the place, in his pockets, in his briefcase.
Another accountant nightmare.
Yes. And he had to fill out an expense report for his company.
Okay.
So what I did was I customized a system for him. And that's what I love to do for my clients, is customize something that works for them.
Okay. So the first thing you do is you figure out what their needs are.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. And then what's the next step in the process?
The next step is to actually set up the appointment. Look at my calendar, look at their calendar, block out some time. I usually work in 3 to 4 hour increments of time.
Okay.
And we go through many sessions. It's up to the client as to how often they want me to come in, once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month. I have been working with clients recently where they've had many organizing issues, and so we spread it out over time for them.
So this is not a situation usually for most people where you can walk in and in one day they've got this nice, organized work environment.
I wish, and they wish it were that easy.
Okay, so that's something to be that when you embark on this endeavor, you need to realize it's going to take over time. It's kind of probably similar to when people ask me to come help them set up their QuickBooks. They think, oh, in a couple of hours it'll be all ready to go and up and running, and it's not, because it's a process. It's a learning process as well. Don't they have to learn new behaviors?
Absolutely, they have to. Yes, and it is a process, and I think a lot of people believe that it is an end product. In one session, they're going to have everything finished. Now, in a few cases, that has happened with me, with clients who basically have a pretty good idea of the organizing process, and they're so committed and they're prepared ahead of time. But paper is so intensive because you were looking at every piece and you were deciding what to do with it and where to put it. So it is a process that takes a long time for many people.
All righty. So, from our earlier in our conversation, I got a sense that it's not just organizing the paper; it's organizing the workspace, organizing your supplies. Where do you start? I mean, when there's a volume of paper, there's a disorganized workspace. Where do you start?
Well, I actually talk with the client in many cases and find out what are their pressing issues.
Okay.
Which would make the most impact on their business.
Okay. So, for example, what?
For example, when I walked into the office of this last client, I told you we rearranged her furniture and whatnot. I said to her, where do you want to start? And she wanted to start with the desktop.
Okay.
In many cases, you want to start with the filing system and clearing out the old stuff so that when you have your paper on top, you have a place to put it.
Yeah, so sometimes it's just a matter, okay, where do we start to make room?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the process is going to be different for each person's situation.
In many cases, it will be, yes.
Okay. So we're looking at organizing our desktops, organizing our paper, organizing our workspace, organizing our supplies. What other kinds of things? Organizing our receipts and so forth. What are some other kinds of things you see that people need to have organized?
I would say that they just looking around their office, there are so many things they don't even think about, like their library. I have helped a couple of clients completely revise their reference library, and they can't find a book quickly.
Okay.
So part of the organizing process is to teach them how to access anything quickly.
Okay. So, well, and that brings us to the benefits of organizing. Because once again, I hear all the time, I'm sure you hear from people all the time when you talk about, everything is just the way I need it. It may look like a disaster zone, but I can find it. Is that really true? And what are some benefits, even for that person who thinks it's already organized enough for them, what would be some additional benefits for them if they went the next step?
Well, that's an interesting scenario, because in some cases, if they can find it, I say, fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not going to change something that works for you, but they have to consider how much time it takes them to find the things.
Okay.
How they feel when they have to look for something. And so that impacts their way of organizing. The largest benefit I find my clients have expressed to me is they just have an immediate feeling of relief. Like a burden has been lifted from their shoulders.
Okay.
Just such a relief. Visually, I don't think a lot of people know how visually our world impacts us. When you look around and you see a lot of things on your desk and a lot of paper. It reduces their stress. It makes them more productive. It gives them a feeling of being in control again.
Okay.
A lot of people feel out of control with so much stuff around them.
Okay. Now, is it just that we tend to keep too much stuff, or do often the clients really need all that stuff? And it's just a matter of reorganizing it?
Yeah, that's not
You're really grimacing at me about that.
There are so many factors that go into that, Angie. In many cases, people do not need to keep all the stuff that they have. And that's a challenge, trying to work with a client to make them see that they don't need 10 staplers. or whatever they have.
Yeah, or articles they saved from 1959 or
something that creeps into the office that belongs in the kitchen.
Oh, okay. So, yeah.
So it's a weeding out process. So first of all, what do you need around you in your work environment to work efficiently?
Okay.
And so that's part of the process too.
All right. So trying to keep that work of, especially in the home office, I would imagine it's very important to try to keep that workspace as truly just a workspace and not let it also become the kids' craft area and the place where you write your grocery list and, all those other things we tend to do, in our home office that maybe we shouldn't be doing.
Yes. And that's one of the first things I address is separate the personal from the business. Even in your files, because a lot of people want to mix their business files and their personal files. And I said, even if you can't take them out of the office, at least put them in a separate drawer.
Okay, yeah. And I would agree with that wholeheartedly, especially in the area of receipts and any financial data, because it's, the IRS doesn't look too kindly on commingling of personal and business information, and certainly not your bookkeeping around your personal and business information. So I'm glad that you really present that, and also from the coaching people in managing their businesses better. That is something else I find a challenge, especially for those working from home, is that there is no separation between business and personal. And what they don't realize is that more of their day is spent on personal stuff than business stuff because they've got the personal stuff in the business work area.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes. And it takes a lot longer to look through and find something if you have everything mixed in there versus if you had all of your business files. And I encourage my clients to set up categories so that when they're looking for something, they immediately eliminate 3 out of 4 of their categories, and they can go to one place to find something much more quickly.
Okay, so what do you mean by categories?
For instance, if you're setting up your business files, you want to have maybe 5 to 7 large categories for your business, such as operations.
Okay.
Or you could call that administrative, whatever you choose. You need finance. You need to have your client files.
Okay.
You need to have some resources. Most business people have resources such as articles they go to or people's names or books and things. So separating those and putting those categories, making them distinct categories helps you find something.
Okay.
And I also use color coding at times with clients for each category a different color so that after you've used your system for a while, you automatically know, oh, I know the green folders are finance.
Okay. Do you typically make the green folders finance?
Yes.
Something to do with the color of money. The color of our money keeps changing, so they may not always be appropriate. But, okay, so I've actually walked into some clients' offices where they literally had everything alphabetical. And they've had the finance files mixed in with the client files, mixed in with the vendor files, and it's all alphabetical. And I guess maybe that if that works for somebody, is that okay? But
well, when I started to organize, that was probably one of the areas that surprised me, is that in the organizing industry, alphabetical organizing is not always the most efficient.
Okay. Why is that?
Well, for instance, suppose you have a list of people, your clients or your vendors or whatever, and suppose you don't remember their name.
Oh.
Where do you go to find them? You have to go through the entire list. So the system that we try to set up as organizers is to categorize first, and then within the category you can alphabetize.
Okay, so what we learned in school about ABCD, need to kind of try to forget that and think more about the function, the category instead.
Yes.
We're going to go to a break here in a moment.